Ever wonder why some people seem drawn to you like a magnet at first, only to disappear without a trace later? If you're an INFJ, this scenario probably sounds all too familiar. You've got this mysterious quality that attracts people, but then something happens, they vanish. What's going on here? Today we're diving deep into the puzzling world of INFJ relationships and uncovering the 12 key reasons why fake people are initially fascinated by INFJs, only to ghost them when things get real. Stick around because what you're about to learn might just change how you view your relationships forever. 1. The initial magnetic pull. INFJs have an irresistible aura. Let's start with the obvious. INFJs possess something special that draws people in like moths to a flame. There's this quiet intensity about them that's hard to ignore. When an INFJ walks into a room, they don't need to announce themselves. Their presence speaks volumes. This magnetic quality isn't about being loud or attention-seeking. It's quite the opposite. INFJs have this calm, mysterious energy that makes people curious. They seem to know things others don't, and there's depth in their eyes that suggests they've got stories to tell. Fake people are particularly drawn to this because they're always looking for something interesting to attach themselves to. The problem is, this initial attraction is often based on surface-level fascination. Shallow people see the INFJ's mysterious nature and think, this person could make me look more interesting. They're not genuinely interested in the person, they're interested in what association with that person might do for their image. It's like being attracted to someone because they drive a fancy car, not because of who they are as a person. The INFJ's unique energy becomes a status symbol for people who lack authentic depth themselves. 2. INFJs are excellent listeners, perfect for narcissistic supply. Here's where things get really interesting. INFJs are naturally gifted listeners. They don't just hear words, they absorb emotions, understand subtext, and make people feel truly heard. For someone who's been craving genuine attention, meeting an INFJ can feel like finding an oasis in the desert. Fake people, especially those with narcissistic tendencies, absolutely love this quality. They've finally found someone who'll listen to their endless stories about themselves, validate their feelings, and provide the emotional support they crave. The INFJ's empathetic nature means they'll genuinely care about what's being shared, asking thoughtful questions and offering comfort when needed. But here's the catch, this dynamic is completely one-sided. The fake person gets all the emotional benefits without having to reciprocate. They dump their problems, seek validation, and receive unconditional support, but when it's time to return the favor, they're nowhere to be found. The INFJ, being naturally giving, might not even notice this imbalance at first. They're so focused on helping others that they don't immediately recognize when someone is taking advantage of their generous nature. By the time they realize what's happening, they've already invested significant emotional energy into the relationship. 3. The wisdom factor. INFJs offer profound insights. INFJs have this uncanny ability to see patterns and connections that others miss. They can look at a situation and offer insights that seem to come from nowhere but make perfect sense. This wisdom isn't book-smart knowledge, it's intuitive understanding of human nature and life's complexities. Fake people initially love this because it makes them feel special by association. Having a wise friend reflects well on them, and they can benefit from the INFJ's guidance without having to develop their own emotional intelligence. They'll come to the INFJ with their problems, seeking advice and perspective. The INFJ, wanting to help, will share their genuine thoughts and feelings about the situation. They might offer life-changing advice or help the person see their problems from a completely new angle. This feels amazing to the fake person. They're getting free therapy from someone who really gets it. However, once they've extracted what they need, or once the INFJ starts expecting some depth in return, these people tend to disappear. They weren't interested in building a genuine friendship. They just wanted access to the INFJ's wisdom for their own benefit. 4. Emotional depth creates uncomfortable mirrors. This is where things start getting uncomfortable for fake people. INFJs don't do shallow. They can't help but dive deep into conversations, emotions, and meaningful topics. While this depth initially attracts people who are curious about what lies beneath the surface, it eventually becomes too much for those who prefer to keep things light and superficial. When an INFJ shares their authentic thoughts and feelings, they're essentially holding up a mirror to the other person. This mirror reflects not just what the person shows the world, but who they really are underneath all the pretense. For someone who's built their entire identity around a false image, this kind of authenticity feels threatening. The fake person starts to realize that maintaining a friendship with someone this genuine requires them to be genuine too. They'd have to drop their masks, admit their flaws, and engage in real emotional intimacy. That's terrifying for someone who's not comfortable with their true self. Rather than rise to the occasion and work on becoming more authentic, they choose the easier path. They disappear. It's less scary to ghost someone than to confront your own lack of depth and authenticity. 5. INFJs call out inconsistencies. Here's something that really makes fake people uncomfortable. INFJs have an excellent memory for emotional details and they notice inconsistencies. If someone tells them one thing on Tuesday and something completely different on Thursday, the INFJ will remember and might gently point it out. This isn't done maliciously. INFJs genuinely want to understand people, so when someone's stories don't add up, they'll ask clarifying questions or express confusion. They're trying to make sense of the inconsistencies, not attack the person. But for someone who's been telling different versions of events to different people, having an INFJ remember and question these discrepancies is incredibly uncomfortable. They can't keep their stories straight when someone's actually paying attention to the details. The fake person realizes they can't manipulate or deceive the INFJ as easily as they might others. The INFJ's genuine interest in understanding them means they're actually listening and remembering, which makes it harder to maintain false narratives. Instead of appreciating this honesty and using it as an opportunity for growth, fake people often choose to cut ties rather than deal with someone who sees through their inconsistencies. 6. The authenticity standard is too high. INFJs don't just live authentically, they expect it from others too. Not in a demanding way, but their very presence raises the bar for genuine interaction. When you're around someone who's completely comfortable being themselves, flaws and all, it becomes harder to maintain a false persona. This creates pressure that fake people aren't prepared to handle. They're used to superficial relationships where everyone maintains their carefully crafted image. But INFJs create an environment where authenticity is not just welcomed but expected. The fake person might initially try to match this energy, sharing more personal details or attempting deeper conversations. But they quickly realize they don't have the emotional tools to sustain this level of genuine interaction. They're like someone who's been living on fast food trying to appreciate fine dining. They simply don't have the palate for it. Rather than developing these authentic relationship skills, which would require significant personal growth and self-reflection, they choose to retreat to more comfortable, shallow connections where they can maintain their false image without challenge. 7. INFJs don't provide constant validation. Here's something that catches many fake people off guard. INFJs won't just tell you what you want to hear. While they're incredibly supportive and understanding, they're also honest. If you're making poor choices or treating people badly, an INFJ will find a gentle but clear way to express their concerns. This is shocking to people who are used to surrounding themselves with yes men and enablers. They expect their friends to validate all their choices and support them unconditionally, regardless of whether their behavior is healthy or appropriate. INFJs care too much to just nod along when someone they care about is heading down a destructive path. They'll express their concerns with love and understanding, but they won't pretend everything's fine when it's not. Fake people often can't handle this kind of honest feedback. They're not looking for genuine friendship with its challenges and growth opportunities. They want an audience that will applaud their every move, not a friend who will lovingly challenge them to be better. When they realize the INFJ won't be their personal cheerleader for poor decisions, they often decide the relationship isn't worth maintaining. 8. The emotional labor becomes too much. INFJs give their all to relationships. They remember important dates, check in during tough times, offer support during crises, and genuinely invest in the other person's well-being. This level of care and attention can be overwhelming for people who aren't used to genuine friendship. Fake people often come from a transactional view of relationships. You give something to get something in return. But INFJs give from the heart without keeping score. This creates an uncomfortable imbalance for people who aren't prepared to reciprocate genuine care and emotional investment. The fake person starts to feel guilty about how little they're giving compared to how much they're receiving. Instead of stepping up and learning how to be a better friend, they often choose to remove themselves from the situation entirely. They'd rather maintain shallow relationships where the emotional investment is minimal on both sides than learn how to engage in the deeper, more meaningful connections that INFJs naturally create. 9. INFJs see through manipulation tactics. This is a big one. INFJs have highly developed intuition when it comes to reading people's motivations. They can sense when someone is being manipulative, even if they can't always put their finger on exactly what's wrong. Fake people often rely on manipulation tactics to get what they want from relationships. They might use guilt, flattery, or emotional manipulation to control situations and people. These tactics work well on people who aren't paying close attention or who are easily swayed by emotional appeals. But INFJs are different. Their strong intuition combined with their deep understanding of human nature means they can usually sense when someone isn't being genuine. They might not call it out immediately, but they'll start pulling back emotionally and questioning the person's motives. The fake person realizes their usual tactics aren't working. They can't guilt trip, flatter, or emotionally manipulate their way into getting what they want from the INFJ. This makes the relationship feel too much like work for someone who's used to easy targets. Rather than learning healthier ways to communicate and get their needs met, they'll often just move on to someone who's easier to manipulate. 10. The INFJ's independence threatens control. Many fake people are drawn to relationships where they can maintain some level of control or influence. They like feeling needed and important, even if it's based on unhealthy dynamics. INFJs, however, are typically quite independent and don't need anyone to complete them or solve their problems. While INFJs value deep connections and appreciate support from friends, they don't rely on others for their sense of self-worth or emotional stability. They're complete individuals who choose to share their lives with others, not incomplete people desperately seeking someone to fill their gaps. This independence can be threatening to fake people who derive their sense of importance from being needed. They can't create codependent dynamics with INFJs because INFJs won't participate in unhealthy relationship patterns. The fake person realizes they can't control or heavily influence the INFJ, which makes them feel less important and powerful in the relationship. Since they're not getting the ego boost they're seeking, they lose interest and move on to someone they can more easily manipulate or control. 11. INFJs ask the hard questions. INFJs are naturally curious about human nature and relationships. They don't just accept surface-level explanations. They want to understand the deeper motivations and meanings behind people's actions. This means they'll ask thoughtful questions that require genuine self-reflection to answer. Questions like, what drives your passion for that? Or, how did that experience change you? Or, what do you think that pattern in your relationships means? These aren't casual conversation starters. They're invitations to explore deeper aspects of personality and experience. Fake people are often uncomfortable with these kinds of questions because they haven't done the self-reflection necessary to answer them authentically. They might not even know what truly drives them beyond surface-level desires for status, attention, or material success. When faced with someone who wants to know them on this deeper level, fake people often realize they don't really know themselves well enough to engage in these conversations meaningfully. Rather than using this as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery, they choose to avoid the discomfort by ending the relationship. 12. The long-term commitment to growth. Perhaps the most challenging aspect of being friends with an INFJ is that they're committed to personal growth and they naturally inspire others to grow as well. They're not content with staying the same year after year. They're always working on becoming better versions of themselves. This growth mindset creates an environment where both people in the relationship are encouraged to evolve, learn, and develop. For genuine people, this is exciting and inspiring. But for fake people who are comfortable with their current level of superficiality, this pressure to grow can feel overwhelming. The INFJ doesn't demand that others change, but their own commitment to growth and authenticity creates a natural challenge for anyone who wants to remain stagnant. Fake people often realize that maintaining a long-term friendship with an INFJ would require them to become more genuine, self-aware, and emotionally mature. Since personal growth requires effort, self-reflection, and often uncomfortable realizations about yourself, fake people usually choose to avoid this challenge altogether. They'd rather maintain relationships that allow them to stay exactly as they are than do the work required to become more authentic. The pattern recognition. If you're an INFJ reading this, you've probably recognized several of these patterns in your own relationships. The cycle typically goes like this. Initial strong attraction and connection, a period of intense interaction where you provide support and wisdom, growing discomfort as deeper authenticity is expected, and finally, sudden disappearance or ghosting. Understanding these patterns isn't about becoming cynical or closed off to new relationships. It's about recognizing the signs early and protecting your energy for people who are genuinely interested in authentic connection. The silver lining. Here's the beautiful truth. When fake people ghost you, they're actually doing you a favor. They're removing themselves from your life before you invest even more emotional energy into a one-sided relationship. It's like a natural filtering system that helps you identify who's worth your time and who isn't. The people who stick around, who embrace your depth and authenticity, who grow alongside you and reciprocate your investment, these are your true friends. Quality over quantity becomes not just a preference but a necessity for INFJs. Protecting your energy. Learning to recognize these patterns early can help you protect your emotional energy. Look for reciprocity in emotional investment. Notice whether someone asks about your life with the same interest you show in theirs. Pay attention to whether they're comfortable with deeper conversations or if they always steer things back to surface-level topics. This doesn't mean being suspicious of everyone or closing yourself off to new connections. It means being mindful of the dynamics you're creating and ensuring your generosity isn't being taken advantage of. Moving forward. Remember, being an INFJ is a gift, not a burden. Your ability to see deeply into people and situations, your natural wisdom, and your capacity for authentic connection are rare and valuable qualities. Don't dim your light because some people can't handle its brightness. The right people will not only appreciate your authenticity but will rise to meet it with their own. These relationships will be worth all the fake connections you've had to navigate to find them. Conclusion. Understanding why fake people initially admire INFJs but then ghost them isn't about changing who you are. It's about understanding the dynamics at play and protecting your energy for relationships that truly matter. Your depth, authenticity, wisdom, and genuine nature are exactly what the world needs more of. The people who can't handle your authenticity were never meant to be in your inner circle anyway. Their departure makes room for those who will not only appreciate your unique gifts but will also bring their own authenticity to the relationship. Being ghosted by fake people isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their inability to engage in genuine human connection. Keep being your authentic self, keep offering your gifts to the world, and trust that the right people will not only stay but will treasure what you bring to their lives. Your authenticity is your superpower. Don't let anyone convince you to dim it down just to make them more comfortable. The world needs more genuine people like you, and the right relationships will celebrate and nurture all that you are. Remember, quality connections with authentic people will always be more fulfilling than numerous shallow relationships with people who can't appreciate your depth. Keep being you. The right people are out there, and they're looking for exactly what you have to offer.